Leader Reid, the president laid out a number of very lofty goals last night, and I suppose it's now your job to turn those goals into legislation. How do you do that?
The president's speech was widely accepted. I got my little briefing on the news today. You know, one poll had him at 91%, the other 88%. So I'm very happy that that's the case. But what his speech boiled down to me, is jobs. We have to do something in this economy to create jobs. We will never balance the budget. We will never have a robust economy when we have 15 million people out of work. So that's what the speech told me.
And so what do you do about jobs?
Well, he had some really good ideas, I thought. First of all, infrastructure. I am a big believer in infrastructure. For every $1 billion we spend in building a highway, a road, a bridge, a dam, a water system, a sewer system, a renewable energy project, that is really significant. I think infrastructure is very important. I think also what he talked about is continuing the energy revolution, the clean energy revolution. For Nevada, that has really helped us significantly with the renewable energy project, geothermal, wind, and solar. So I think those ideas that he has are really extremely good. Innovation, he said that we should out-innovate, out-build, and out-educate everyone else. So all those ideas are good, and we have to put them to practice, though, in creating jobs.
Republicans have said that infrastructure spending is one area where they might be able to meet you halfway. They might be willing to spend more on infrastructure, but only if they see really deep cuts in other areas. Is that something that you're prepared to do?
Happy to look at anything that moves the ball down the court.
But who's going to go first? Who's going to come out with their plan first and say, here are the cuts we think need to be made, and here's the legislation to do it?
We have to be very careful how we cut and paste. We should do some of that, but we have to be careful how we do it. We have to make sure that the cuts that we make are important cuts, that are meaningful cuts. I think, for example, I can accept what the president suggests on a 5-year across-the-board hold of discretionary spending. But he needs to include in that not only the discretionary domestic spending, but also military. They have to make sure that we don't have an increase there. I think the military can take some cuts in spending. I really do believe that. So we can do some cutting. I'm happy to deal with my Republican colleagues in that regard.
The president kind of upped the ante on earmarks last night. He said he's going to veto any bill that comes to his desk that has earmarks in it. Where does that leave you? Because you're now sort of the odd man out on this issue. Republicans have said they're not going to ask for earmarks. You have defended them. You say they're an important congressional power. But what do you do if the president says he's going to veto a bill with earmarks?
Any president would love to be able to get more power, and that's what this is all about. It's usurping the power from the legislative branch of government and giving it to the executive branch of government. I don't accept that. I have a constitutional obligation to do congressionally directed spending. The president wants more power. I don't want to give him any. Now, he may be able to succeed on a short term, but earmarks will come back. Congressionally directed spending will come back. John Cornyn's quoted in the paper saying they're coming back. He's head of the Republican Senatorial Campaign Committee. They're coming back. It's only a question of when.
So are you going to basically call his bluff and allow earmarks in these bills anyway?
Well, I believe in congressionally directed spending. I'll do everything I can to make sure there is some. But at this stage, it appears that the members of the Republican Party they want to give this power to the president. I don't. Mm-hmm. And so we'll continue working with them and see when we can get them back.
So it sounds like maybe you take a break for a while and hope that this issue kind of dies down?
And a while is always in the eye of the beholder.
Got it. I'm wondering what you think of the atmospherics of the speech last night. Members of both parties sitting together. You didn't get to choose a partner because you have an assigned seat as a member of the leadership. But if you had been able to select someone to sit with, would you have, and who would it have been?
Well, I don't really know. I have this assigned seat, and I'm happy with that. I think last night was really good. I heard John Lewis, a veteran congressman from Georgia, talk about how good he felt about this, and it was good. You know, I've been coming to a lot of these State of the Unions, and I am frankly very tired of this jumping up and down and Democrats jump up, the Republicans don't. Republicans jump up, Democrats don't. Last night, no one could tell who was jumping up and down. There was some applause lines, and that was good, and people stood. I think it was a much more deliberative audience. I think it was one that was also more, I don't know if polite, but I think that's the right word. I mean, I just think some things have gotten way out of hand, and yelling and screaming on a party basis. That last night really took a lot of that away.
And it seems like the speech was tailored to the reality of the room, in that there wasn't as much red meat in the speech from the White House, knowing that you would have this spectacle of Democrats jumping up with Republicans sitting on their hands on either side of them.
The president has always been a person who tries to be a peacemaker. He won the medal for being the ambassador of peace, but he really is. That's who he is. That's his personality. And I think he saw an audience there, that it was an opportune time for him to try to, let's work together. That's what that speech was all about.
Now that Republicans are in control of the House, how does your job change? How does your strategy change? How does your agenda change?
Well, it changes a lot. You know, the Constitution sets our bicameral legislature up, and in the way they set it up, you know, the House can push through things. Oh, they'll pass so much stuff, it'll just come over here and die. That's the way the founding fathers set it up. And we'll try to pick and choose what they send to us that we can work on over here on a bipartisan basis and send it back to them. Most stuff they do over there will just die over here, but that's the way it is.
Why not hold a vote on repealing health care? I mean, if you have the votes, you had the votes last year.
Because I think that what the Republicans want to do to go after seniors is bad. I think that if they want to make that big donut hole bigger so that drug costs are higher, I'm not in favor of that. If they want to stop seniors from being able to have a wellness check that doesn't cost anything, I'm not in favor of that. I'm not in favor of someone who has a disability not being able to get insurance. I'm not in favor of small business all over America having an increase in their taxes because they want to give health insurance to their employees. I'm not in favor of that.
But why not hold a vote to show that Democrats are not in favor of that and that there are not the votes in the Senate to repeal it?
If the Republicans want to increase the taxes for Americans, if they want to, you know, this health care bill is a job creator, This health care bill is one that is reduced our debt by $238 billion over the first 10 years of its life and $1.3 billion over the next 10 years. The Republicans want to increase the debt by almost $2 trillion in having this vote. I'm not going to be part of that. If they want to have a vote on that, that's their privilege. But I think I'm going to remind everyone within the sound of my voice, and having a vote to do that is increasing taxes for every American and lessening the ability for people who are sick to go to the doctor when they're sick.
What's your relationship like with Speaker Boehner?
I like John Boehner very, very much. He and I have backgrounds that are not the same but similar. He's a person that I think is a good person. I understand the House. He has a lot of very, very conservative people that gave him his job, and I'm sure that that is going to allow him to be less pragmatic than I think he would want to be, but I like him a lot.
Do you think you'll be able to work together?
Oh, sure. We've had meetings. I like him very, very much. I'll do my very best, and I know he will too.
On what kinds of issues? What kinds of legislation can we expect to see the two parties be able to work together on these next 2 years?
I think he's going to have to do, I'm sorry, he's going to have to do what he has to do over there. They'll send us stuff over here, and then it's over here where I'll try to work on a bipartisan basis, and then craft stuff so that we can send it back to them and they will accept it.
So what's at the top of your agenda?
Jobs. Jobs is our number one issue. We have to do something to create employment. We cannot have a good economy when we have 15 million people out of work. Mm-hmm. We cannot do anything about really the debt that this country has unless we get people back to work.
So what's the first legislative item that you'll look at trying to pass relating to jobs?
I'm having a chairman's meeting today at lunchtime, mm-hmm. and every chairman they will make a report on what they can do that will be job creating in their committees.
One last question on spending. Republicans have said that they want to cut $100 billion over the next calendar year. How much do you want to cut?
I don't think we should have these artificial numbers. I think what we should do is find out what we can cut that doesn't really gouge the country. We all recognize that we have a problem with the debt, and we must do something about the debt. But I think we have to do it with a programmatic approach rather than just having some artificial number that we're trying to make.
And one last thing, if you'll indulge me, I'm wondering what you thought of the fact that there were not one but two Republican responses to the president's State of the Union address last night.
Well, with the content of the president's speech, they probably should have more than that to match it, because the two responses were very, very weak.
Do we have a third party in our political system now?
Those that watched that performance by the so-called third party, I'm sure hoping that there is no such thing.
So you didn't think much of her address?
I haven't found anyone that wrote about it or talked about it that thought it was very good.
Thank you very much.
You bet.